But
How
you're
are,
holding up. Now, you're in DC, correct?
yes, I am in DC. How are you all doing up there?
I'm in New York. Ryan is actually in Bethesda, so you guys are neighbors.
Oh, hey.
We live very close to one another. That's
Yeah.
hilarious.
So, thank you so much for being with us and taking the time to be with us today, Dr. Ruff. I know it's hard to imagine a life after coronavirus, but at some point we're going to get there. And, now is probably a good time to be doing the research for the procedures that we may wanted to have had right around now, or, we're thinking about having. So I met you, Dr. Ruff, at an event for VASER Liposuction. So Dr. Ruff, can you start by telling us what is VASER Liposuction?
Liposuction is liposuction. It is just the removal of fat from areas that we don't want. How that is done is through a variety of different means. And yes, a lot of people know laser liposuction. It was extremely well marketed, probably one of the best marketed devices out there. And there are a number on the market now. VASER is a little bit different. It's unique, and it's been around since the early 2000s. I was the first person in the DC region to have and use the device, and it really has become the go-to from a body contouring standpoint in my practice. And it's unique in that it uses ultrasound. And so VASER is actually an acronym that means vibration amplification of sound energy at resonance. And all it is a description of how it works, underscoring how gentle it is on the cells, and how precise it can be from a body contouring standpoint.
And you bring up a good point with the gentle on the cells. So this is a really good option for people who want to transfer fat, correct? Because you can sort of maintain more of that fat.
Yes.
Keep it alive.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. And more so than other types of, liposuction, correct?
Yes. So mechanical liposuction, which was the original, it's what everything we do is based off of, comes with a lot of a lot of shear forces. There is trauma to the cells. And so the number of cells that are actually viable and available to transfer is low. In order for us to optimize that, we need a way to gently tease the cells out of their native environment and respect their membranes, being able to then partition them up into smaller and smaller packets, because those cells, they're in a very happy environment. They're getting nutrition from all kinds of sources. And as soon as we disrupt that, we disrupt their entire nutritional capabilities. And so when we transfer it back in, we need small packets of cells that can do something called drink from the environment, called cellular imbibition. And in extracting the cells, the VASER does an excellent job at not only protecting those cells, but creating really small packets that when we transfer them are going to be a lot more likely to be able to drink effectively until they can establish their own nutritional sources in their new environments. I hope that's a long explanation for...
To break it down like a little bit, more in layman's terms, and we do like the science, so I'm not steering away from that. But just to take a little step backwards, when you remove fat and you're thinking about transferring it, Ryan, you've done this, but, the Brazilian butt lift, they transfer it into the butt, they can do it into the boobs, they can do it into the face, and you take it out of the body, what is it, about 80%? I'm sorry, it's more like 50% of the fat dies, correct?
Yeah, the viabilities can be as low as about 50 to 60%, all the way up to around 80% with more just mechanical liposuction. Laser, on the other hand, really is just totally destructive and tends not to leave very much that is viable on the back end, so that wouldn't be available to us. But with the VASER, in the way it works, the viability is somewhere between 88 and 94% in those studies.
When we talk about fat transfer, the first thing that comes to my mind is if I'm putting it into, Ryan did his pecs, or if I was to put it into my breasts, or God forbid my face, they do it a lot under the eyes, correct?
Yes.
How do I know that I'm going to have even results?
Yeah, that's always a good question. I only, in doing this for 20 years, I've only ever seen something that I would call significantly asymmetric fat take. There's a lot of planning that goes on, how we process the cells, which portion of the cells that we use for transfer out of the cleaned cells. That always, those of us who do it regularly, helps optimize any lack of asymmetric take, or where it takes in one place and doesn't take in the other. I would say the only time I've ever seen that happen in the buttocks is someone who will acknowledge that I wasn't very good about my positioning. I kind of stayed on my left side more than my right, and that kind of pressure will definitely have an effect over time. We try and educate patients preoperatively on those tiny little nuances. So I mean, if you have a fat transfer of the face and you're a face sleeper and you face sleep on your left side, that side's probably going to have more pressure. It may be a little more swollen because it's dependent early on, but when we get to final results, patients may see that pressure-laden side or pressure-affected side has less of an expected take than the opposite side. And
so how long do you have to, only sleep on one side, or make sure that you're sitting evenly, or I don't know, not favoring one side if you have a butt lift, or not sleeping on your chest or your face?
We prefer to put patients in suspended animation for like 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm joking.
I'm like, that'd be amazing.
No, I know, wouldn't it be? No, I think really protecting it for the first 2 to 3 weeks is the critical period.
Okay.
And that's the most important period. Beyond that, it's unlikely. The cells have started to establish themselves. What's going to survive is definitely going to survive at that point, unless you have some unexpected trauma to the area. The likelihood that anything would change from that point forward is small.
So, doctor, you brought up the butt, and you brought up not going under the muscle. I'm turning 40, not that far away. And I'm noticing the bottom of my butt is not looking like it did before. I think they call that the banana roll.
That's the roll just under the fold.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Now, I know I can squat different. There's 100 things I could do, but could I, go for a long weekend, gain 5 pounds real quick and just hit that lower area? Does that need a lot of fat to fill in that little tiny nooch underneath the cheek?
It doesn't need a lot. It just needs enough to support that area. We're built with little support mechanisms, and when those start to deteriorate, that's when we start to see lines, wrinkles, depressions, things shifting. That even goes with some of our muscle volume as we age, and clearly maintaining muscle volume is a lot more important than being able to run 25 miles.
Sure.
So I think that's as we age, shifting how we work out to optimize that is really, really important. But when we do have little depressions or areas and we have fat that has redistributed itself, it is great to be able to take that fat and repurpose it into areas that have changed or shifted. Now, you do bring up a good point, though. A lot of people will say, should I gain 5-10 pounds to be able to transfer more? And I am a big believer that I want people at a stable, maintainable weight. That's when things are predictable, because fat is like any other fat. When we gain weight, it's going to gain weight with us. And when we lose weight, it's absolutely going to lose weight with us. And my really only unhappy patients are those who try and gain a tremendous amount of weight to be able to allow transfer. And I really, really caution against this. And then we do the suction, we do the transfer, and then they try and get themselves down at or below the weight that they feel they're happiest at. And then they say, well, where did all my fat go? Well, it really didn't go anywhere. It's shrunk. I mean, it's a storage depot. It has a lot of other functions, but for that purpose, it's a storage depot. And when we shrink the storage depot, it's not going to be as big. It's not that it's not there; it's just not as big.
Is VASER more expensive than other types of liposuction for like base liposuction?
I think it depends on the area and the region and what the individual doctor wants to price it out as. For me, it's my tool. So no, it's in my office, that's what I use.
Right.
That is going to be priced at what my liposuction cost is.
So wait, now I want to know what is that add-on cost to then put it back into the body?
That also varies by region too. I think depending on the big areas of the areas of the body that we will add into, it could be anywhere from $1,500 to about $4,500 if we're doing multiple areas of the body, only for processing and time and just the number of little components that are required for different areas, because we use different cannulas and insertion techniques for different areas of the body because they're all unique. And so they all have special tools that go to those areas.
But like to put it back into like the breast, let's say, that's ballpark.
Somewhere between $1,500 and $2,500.
That's my look of surprise is more that I feel like that's much lower than I was thinking that it would be. When you consider that a syringe of filler is, $1,200, $1,500, depending on where you are in the country,
and not permanent.
The fat seems like is that a much better way to go?
If someone is considering liposuction or body contouring, here's the big balance. If I am just going to harvest enough to transfer, that's going to have a different cost structure than if I'm performing a VASER liposuction, have product, if we want to call it that, product available to us, and then decide, do we want to use it in other places? And so there is a little bit of a differentiation from a pricing or cost standpoint on what the purpose is.
Sure. Okay. Right. So how many, right. You wouldn't, this might not be the most economical procedure if you're not already having liposuction, because then you're also paying for the harvesting, the liposuction. But how many of your patients who do liposuction, what percentage are then taking the fat and putting it back into their body somewhere?
Somewhere between 40 to 60%.
Yeah.
Almost half the patients that we do will decide to have something put somewhere else.
Oh, so like what are the best, most popular areas right now?
Actually, the ones that you have totally described, breast and face. I mean, those are the common ones. Yeah. Other areas include the pectoral region for men, hands, absolutely. Hands is a great one.
Facelift for the hands.
We do that. Most of my 50-plus-year-olds, I really recommend that they consider that. Not everybody takes up on it, but they love the way it looks. And because we can process this down even into nanofat really effectively, essentially liquefied fat, we use this little dermal microneedling technique with these fine microcannulas. They're like 0.6 millimeters and about 20 microns in diameter, but it allows us to deposit these very potent cells up in that superficial dermal epidermal, the skin layer junction, where we see all the wrinkling and all that textural change, and has pretty dramatic effect on that very surface. Because we can volumize, and volumization has a certain amount of effect, but if we really want to get that youthful looking skin, we need to even treat up further into that top layer as effectively as possible. And this type of fat gives us the capability of doing it.
So, Doc, can I come in, get a consult, show you the roll? Can I stay awake?
Yeah, absolutely. I think individual tolerance varies, and I think being able to be honest with oneself, what they're going to be able to tolerate. Because when we do things under local anesthesia or even a little tiny bit of oral medication that makes people feel like they've had a couple cocktails, we also have something called Pronox, which is a nitrous oxide to help reduce pain, anxiety. But nobody's ever asleep. Right. Patients are still aware. They feel things. They'll feel push, tugs, sometimes a little bit of discomfort in areas. And as long as patients are willing to accept that, know that they're going to be able to tolerate that with these areas, totally easy to do.
Sign me up.
So wait, Ryan, are you thinking about you want fat to put back under that roll? You're not talking about the roll that's like under.
My top
is nice
is
and round.
A 10.
Yeah.
It's a 10.
Gotcha.
The bottom
is.
I'm like, how did I all of a sudden have an old man ass?
Yeah.
Shit.
And it's that bottom that shows it too.
I know. And I absolutely, listen, I have no shame at this point. I'm out, slinging it. But at the end of the day, I know that I could personally gain 10 pounds and do a lift tonic class and do killer legs twice a week. I'm tired. I don't want to do it.
You don't want to do. Listen, I get it. I
Summer's
totally
around
get
the
it.
corner. Summer's around the corner.
Speaking of summer being around the corner, and we know, like we said, we're not sure when the when the restrictions on elective surgeries are going to be lifted. At the time of recording this, we're just not sure. How long is the recovery, or rather, how close to, bathing suit season can you have procedures like this?
If there's small areas, isolated liposuction with the VASER, pain, bruising, recovery is pretty quick. I would say anywhere from about 2 to 4 weeks, depending on, maybe even 6 if they're relatively small. But if we're doing like arms, underarm area, mid back roll, flanks, abdomen, maybe inner thighs, that's something where a 6 to 8 week window to at least starting to feel comfortable in less clothing, I think would be advisable. So it can be quick.
But like May is probably, wow. So like as a plastic surgeon though, this has to be incredibly tough right now, because this is when people would be coming in. I'm sorry about that.
Eye body, it is what it is. We're still lucky to be able to do what we do, and like being able to educate like we're educating now, I think is tremendous. So when the time is right, the time is right.
Absolutely. Yeah. But probably you're looking more into, if you're thinking about doing a bigger procedure, waiting until the fall. Womp womp. Darn, this was the year,
why
Ryan.
Wait? No, I disagree. Why wait? This is we've all been in the longest time out of our lives.
I know,
kids,
but it's like if it's May, who knows?
If I didn't like my body and I wanted to, and this was in the pipeline to begin with, I'm not waiting. I'm going to get it done. And if I can snatch like the last end of summer to the best of my ability, I'm going to do it.
Ugh, can't wait to get in there and do this. Now with the VASER, is there any skin tightening effect? Because I know with some of the, some of the ultrasound technologies are being used right now for skin tightening. Is there anything?
Yeah.
Do we get any sort of like skin tightening with the VASER?
So when we look at retraction of that skin back down onto our underlying framework, our body, traditional liposuction only gives us about 8 to 10, maybe 11% retraction. As we add in the VASER, we're getting up into 20-some% retraction, which is it's quite a bit better than others, and that really has to do with the fact that those fiber structures, that architecture underneath the skin, is allowed to gently retract itself back without scar tissue, without excessive disruption that would lead to irregularities and things like that. So yes, we do get a better tightening of the entire region. Now, does that translate into crepey skin on the surface not being crepey afterwards? Probably not, because that is a problem that is much higher up or much more towards the surface. But when we're talking about but what's happening right below the surface, yes, we can do quite a bit to improve that retraction and the tone of the skin next to the body.
Awesome. Thank you so much for this, doctor. Is there anything else, that you feel like we need to know when it comes to these types of procedures, when it comes to VASER and when it comes to transferring our fat?
I would say the most important thing is go to somebody who's got a lot of experience doing this. I would even tell you, when I was 2, 3, 4, 5 years out into practice, I thought I was really good, and I didn't know what experience really translates into. And as we get to be more experienced, there is just no substitute for that whatsoever. Just the little nuances of how to, shape and curve around a body, or process the fat, or precisely get into different tissue planes. So the most important thing is to find somebody who has got a tremendous amount of experience, and can take the time to really create and curate a bespoke experience for each individual when it comes to their body contouring, facial contouring needs.
And now we talked about the add-on price, but before I let you go, in general, and we know that prices are different depending on the doctor, depending on the area, but ballpark for various types of liposuction throughout the body. Can you give us some ballpark prices?
So I actually do something a little bit unique. Most patients, the traditional model is we charge per area. So an abdomen may be $3,000, a flank may be another $2,500, and mid-back maybe, $15 or $1,750. So that's what the traditional model has always been. That's kind of how I grew up. I started realizing that, the 125-pound gym rat who wants abdomen, flanks, mid-back is going to take me less time, but there's going to be a higher precision than the 180-pound person who just hasn't paid attention to lifestyle, things like that. And the volumes are different, and even certain risk levels are different. So we actually came to an hourly pricing. So I charge by the hour. And so however much I determine is going to take me to do those areas, that's what my fee is. And I think we charge about either $3,500 or $4,000 an hour. So I don't remember that exactly, but that's my charge. Most people, though, will still charge per area. And most areas run anywhere from about $1,750 to $3,000 per area. And you can, add that up over time. Add that up per areas that you want and start to come up with at least some relative cost structure that might be.
The reason I brought that up is that we've done a lot of conversations with people and experts on the non-invasive body contouring. And at the end of the day, what Ryan and I have come to, the non-invasive is really great for a very specific person. But at the end of the day, sometimes it's the same, if not more expensive than just going and having the liposuction, or the liposuction isn't that much more expensive.
Yeah, there's oftentimes a premium put to doing non-surgical things because they are non-surgical. There is relatively lower risk at some level, but satisfaction. For many things, there is still not quite anything that equates to what surgery can do. It is still the 100% result.
Yes.
And right now you're doing virtual consults?
Yes.
So Ryan, maybe we should get on and do a virtual consult, because I will come and stay with you.
Yeah.
We can go to Dr. Ruff.
Absolutely.
And do some ladies who lunchtime lipo. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. And heck, if we can stay awake, let's film it. So Doc, I can send you pictures of my new old man ass. You can absolutely have a consult via picture. Is it basically through pictures, or do you Zoom?
So we do. So we have Zoom. We have another option through the office as well. So what most people will do will call in, especially right now. They will work through our front desk to set up a time. Yeah. It is ideal if I have some pictures, because it's sometimes hard to get up and undress or do things.
Yes.
If I can actually look at a set of pictures over on one screen over here and be able to still talk directly to the patient, and we can actually have a conversation rather than feeling uncomfortable, disrobing in front of the computer. I prefer it that way. So that's what we like to do. We like to have patients send in pictures of their areas of concern. We have some format that we like that to be in, just to make it as efficient as possible. And then the patient and I can actually have a very pleasant educational conversation about what the options are. Obviously, it does not supplant a real in-person consultation where I can truly see tissue texture, get a better idea of what the tissue tolerances might be, and that's where experience really comes in. But I think we can be fairly accurate on giving patients ideas and some relative cost analyses for procedures that then will pave the way for what they want to do in the future.
Nice.
Yeah, and like you said it, while we've got this, the world essentially is on pause right now, it's a good time to do the research, and to reach out to doctors and get those virtual consults. Because look, on the patient side too, for the doctors, I know we've spoken to doctors before who say it's great because they can talk to more patients in a day. And the reverse is true for us. Like, you can make your rounds and do a few different consults with different doctors. So if this is something that you've been thinking about, now might be a good time to be doing your research and doing some virtual consults
and meeting some doctors.
Yeah.
And I just want to echo one thing. I get a lot of questions about, because I've done a lot of stuff and people know and blah, blah, blah. I paid for most of my consults. So, and people are they get a little upset that they have to pay for a doctor's time. And I'm like, time out. I paid to meet my surgeon to make sure that I had a good vibe. And I like the before and afters. So paying for consults, really, I really just want to put that out there. It really should not be so taboo, because you are sitting and meeting with the doctor.
I think people think that when they go through their insurance, they don't pay anything, when they're really not doing that. They actually are paying. They just don't see that transaction, except for maybe a small copay.
Yeah.
And so it is always a bit surprising to me that patients aren't willing to pay for their consultation time. It is education. It is, I think, time well spent, especially the docs who will take the time and who take that very seriously, which we do.
Yeah.
And most docs will also, if someone decides to proceed, wrap that into the total cost. So ultimately that money spent does go towards a procedure or a treatment, depending on the different policies. But that's how we do it. If somebody comes in, yes, there is a consultation fee. But we do wrap that into a treatment cost if that's the way patients will proceed.
Yes.
Well said, doctor. Thank you so much for being with us today. If people want to find you, what is the best way for them to come and see you?
West End Plastic Surgery, www.westendplasticsurgery.com.
And you are right now taking virtual
Yes,
consults.
and we're not charging for virtual consults right now.
Nice.
I think it's just a great opportunity.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And of course, stay safe during all of this. We really appreciate your time. If you guys have questions for Dr. Ruff that you want us to pass along, we're happy to do that. You can reach us at hello@artbeautypodcast.com. And of course, you can always find us on Instagram and Facebook at Art Beauty Podcast.
And don't forget our favorite platform, YouTube. Like, subscribe, check us out, give us a comment, some feedback. We love when you guys comment.
We'll see you next
Tuesday.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.